So I promised to do this in 10 minutes, and then we have a discussion. Looking forward to that, John, the lady. And my point is, we are in a system. And you guys, most of you are from France, so you know your Bourdieu and Foucault. I know them as well, and also the chairman here. And so we realize that we are in a system, and that individuals are not perfectly, say, bad people, but they are disciplined, punished, and they are rewarded and incentivized. And this is even the case for John Ioannidis. He's just publishing, counting his citations, and this is the way it works, isn't it, John? And one page down. So, and of course, we have seen today that Merton was mentioned. I don't know, it was probably John or somebody else mentioned Merton. Merton was a normative sociology, totally different from what I just explained for the French scientist. And this was how science ought to be done. And this is, of course, very important. So you look at the top of the paper, you see, of my slide, you see openness, disinterestedness, universality, originality, skepticism, heaven. And of course, this is how we should do it. And of course, criticism, so people have been really looking in laboratories like your own Latour and other people. They have, of course, concluded that people are not working by these norms. Most of the times, they use the counter norms. I'm not going to dwell on that. Very interesting literature as well, also sociology. And in fact, we are now going to what Simon and many other people have described as a post-academic system. Don't worry, you'll be all right. And so it's about business, it's like the market. And in fact, during the discussion this morning, many references to market principles, proprietary, having your own data, milking your data, making a career, building up your capital, your scientific capital, and your, say, social capital. This is Bourdieu again. So, and this is the whole system. And imagine, look at this slide. When I show this slide to 400 PhDs, in Utrecht we have, in my medical center, about 1,200 PhDs working on a thesis. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a machine. And they are in, this is the machine. This is the heart of the machine. And so I was also going through this machine. So, can you see the pointer? Can I? Yeah, I can use the pointer. So, no, I'm not going to use the pointer, sorry. So this is the machine. So, oh, it's there. Sorry, I didn't practice. So this is, it's all about articles. And articles are not articles. Articles in Nature are different from articles in the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology, I'm sure. I was the dean for 10 years, so I know how to count. And so these articles are there. And of course, you are then assessed. And of course, my boss, he came from America. He had a wonderful publication list. He got recognition. This is in 1980. He got a lot of money. He hired staff. I was one of them. We were making, say, data. We worked 7 days in a sort of American lab in Amsterdam West. We loved it. We were cowboys. We were very competitive. Can you see how competitive I are? I'm still am. That's it. I can simply, I'm going to win this debate. And so this is, of course, what we do. And this is how you make, this is the first tranche. So I, myself, I did HIV/AIDS research. I went 20, 40 times through this cycle. So I had my PhDs, I had my, say, last authorships, first authorships, because, of course, when I did my thesis, I was first author, my boss was last author. He became the professor in '86, and I hired my staff and my PhDs, and I was last author. And indeed, 10 years after my boss, I became the professor. Any questions? This is how you make a career. Patrick, how did you do it? No, don't tell me. So this is how we do it. And of course, I'm not joking. This is really what everybody realized. So everybody is here. Nature and science are there. Say, this is where the funders are. This is where I am as a dean. I was counting, and I was doing academic promotions. And they were all looking at publication lists, etc., etc. And so, of course, money. Did we talk about money? Money is the oxygen for every laboratory. So even, John, you need money to do your research. If you have a big research laboratory trying to do research on the pathogenesis of HIV infection, you need roughly about 4 to 5 million a year now. And this is what I did. So we were dying for grants. And how do you get grants? By getting papers out. By getting papers out in the respected journals, because then the grant committee says, this Frank Miedema is a real good scientist, he has papers in Nature, Science, Journal of Clinical Investigation, Lancet, he can get the money and he will do. This is, of course, what we do. Do you think I exaggerate? Look at what people report in what happens in committees, where you have been on and I have been on. If the curtains are closed, we say, yeah, of course, open science, but we see that If you publish in those journals, give him the money. Of her, the money. This is more recent. Next slide, please. Okay, so now look at what I just explained to you. So the system is not based on content. It's not based on, is this really a real problem in society that we are now trying to solve? Although today, of course, I think we try to solve a real problem in society, but most of the scientists, they just work for the scheme. And they go for the journals, they go for the H-index, and of course, everything is behind, say, paywalls. That's totally not Miltonian. So we are not sharing our data because I also was guilty as hell. So we did a lot of research, we had wonderful stuff, we never shared, because sharing was really stupid. Your dean and your department head was never, say, rewarding to share, because that was really for losers. You had to milk it, and then you had even more PhDs and more grants coming. This is the way, so I'm guilty, so you can take me out, stone me outside, if you are not guilty. Read your Bible. And of course, very much, and this is very important here, this is very much, so you see here, Patrick and I, we are the classical, and John, of course, you're from Greece, but still very white, very Caucasian, I guess. So we are the top scientists, of course. We know how to play this game. And so, and if you are, of course, the females and the people who didn't want to be in the game, who didn't want to be in a sort of financial system, they left. They were just quitting. And some people, they put their thesis on my desk and said, Frank, I don't know what you do, but I quit. This is horrible. This is nonsense. What are we doing? We have only 4 years to get those papers out. You described it, John. If you don't have 4 or 5 papers in 4 years on a Cancer Foundation grant in Holland, you don't make it to the next round. You will be aborted from the system, of course. And so keep that in mind. So the system is against, say, the real issues. I'm going to speed up. This is also against diversity. It's against inclusiveness, etc. You can imagine. You pick a very simple question that can be solved in 4 years, and then you do well. This is how I became the dean. Somebody laughing? These slides are really important. I will leave the slides on the machine. Matrix-shaped science. That means this system, and this has not been, say, put on the table very, very strongly, although I heard you mention it, John. It's very important that you have to realize a lot of research is not being done. I give you an example. So a very sexy research on the genes that cause cancer and the very preclinical stuff, people love it. It's sexy, it goes into the top journals. I have my papers there. But as soon as you have been spending 100 days in the hospital after a bone marrow transplantation chemotherapy because you got an acute leukemia at 45 or 54, is one of my friends, and you ask the question at your doctor, I don't feel well, I don't have libido anymore, I don't feel myself, where's my energy? Can we do something about it? And then the doctor says, well, you shouldn't complain, your cancer is gone, this is high tech here, what we did. And so, please. And then you have to say, okay, my cancer is gone, but I'm still here. Can I also be a subject of research? Can you help me, say, get quality of life again? Imagine after stroke, etc., etc. You all are desperate to get a stroke. No, anxious, scared to get a stroke. And then, of course, who will teach you to learn again, and to speak again, and to read again, and to be yourself again? These topics are not very sexy. They are not, say, being rewarded in this type of systems. Do I exaggerate? Look at the agendas of large medical centers. And we did it in the Health Council, did it in Holland, and they were, say, blaming us for playing the metric games and not catering to society. And they were right. This is serious stuff. And of course, so I will just explain to you, I'm also responsible for the whole of university, and there, of course, you see that these metric games cannot be played by social science and humanities. We discussed it during the break. If you're a philosopher or you are in the humanities, which of course we call scholarship, that is very difficult to get your points and credit points in this system. Whereas in many universities, they had the idea 10 years ago that one classifying evaluation system would be good enough. And of course, you're now spending your time on a sort of social science, John. Why don't you stick to, say, real medical research that is really important and quantitative, instead of, say, meta-research, because meta-research, they are terrorists. No, and it's sort of social science with a sauce, with a little bit of sort of mathematical sauce. No, you are terrorists. You are terrorists. I'm kidding, but the slides are very serious. Keep that in mind. We are doing a lot of research, especially, for instance, compare the rich countries and the poor countries, the north and the south, etc. There are issues that are just not being catered to, because you cannot make a career on that. And your mentor will say, go to Hans Klevers in het Utrecht lab, and he makes you 4 or 5 papers in Nature in 4 years, and your career will be top. Because everybody knows the Matthew effect. Thou who has shall be given. Of course, open science is going to change, and open science is not a panacea. We will have a lot of issues, and we heard already the issues from the lady from Tilburg, very, very nice talk, and of course this is very difficult, but this is the idea to change. And change is difficult, and there are of course people who are against it, and you probably already met them, and they indeed think that you're terrorists, but definitely something is going. And I think that in Europe, the European Union has decided to go. And I know that also the learned universities who are research intensive, where you have been sharing, they have been, say, going for open science. And in Europe, we go for open science. We know it's difficult. We're not naive. I'm not naive. So we know it's difficult, but we think that we can change. And I'll come to the end of my talk. And this happened, say, 3 years ago. And then there was there's a lot of attention also. You can go to European Union. There's a lot of information from highly, say, respected committees discussing how can we do the incentive and reward system in open science, because that's my topic. And we also, and at the bottom you see that November 15, that was 2 weeks ago, not even, we signed, the funders, the universities, the Royal Academy, and the Ministry. We signed one position paper that we are going to change the incentive and reward system. In what direction? In this direction. This is the direction we go. So it's really open science. It's engaging the stakeholders, engaging in, say, not only counting birds in the gardens and that type of stuff, but looking on your watch, but it's really about what type of questions are now relevant to solve in regenerative medicine, for instance, or psychiatry. Psychiatry, fantastic, I'm nearly done. So this is the new scheme. You see that here, the indicators are teamwork, really inclusive. Open science practice is very important. And of course, societal impact. Not only, say, science for science and getting your papers published. Papers don't cure patients. They have to be taken and they have to be reduced to practice, as people in the United States are saying. Very, very important. Of course, fair data sharing, very important. Say at the bottom of my slide, you can go to that website and you see how we tried to change this a couple of years ago in UMC Utrecht, where I was the dean, in a large medical center. And it was difficult to do, it was hard, but we did it. And we are now using a new scheme that you can find, it's open there. And it's very much like what is on this slide. So it can be done, but be careful, it's very difficult. It's really tough, because this is really a game changer. And many people who had a nice life, like I had before I became the dean, that was even worse. So definitely we have a nice life, but now these people have to realize we have to do something different, and it's always very difficult. And I hated the way you depicted the mentor with his beard, and I don't feel like that at all. And I thank you for your attention.